3 days before my wedding, my future mother-in-law shoved a prenup in my face and said, "Sign it, or the wedding is off." Her entire family stood behind her like a firing squad, smirking, waiting for the poor girl to break. They had no idea I had $15 million in investment accounts and a lawyer who was about to destroy them. You won't believe what happened next. Before we continue, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you've ever dealt with entitled in-laws who looked down on you and underestimated your worth, this story is for you. My name is Cameron Ellis, and I'm 31 years old. 3 days before what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, I stood in a mahogany-paneled study and watched my fairy tale turn into a nightmare. But here's the thing about nightmares. Sometimes, the monster isn't the one you think it is. Let me take you back to where this story really begins. I met Preston Hayes 2 years ago at a charity gala in Atlanta. He was handsome, charming, successful. On paper, he was perfect. His family was Atlanta royalty. Old money. The Hayes Hospitality Group owned restaurants, hotels, event spaces across the Southeast. Preston was 33, the golden son, being groomed to take over the family empire. And he'd chosen me, Cameron Ellis, a girl from a working-class neighborhood in North Carolina. My parents were teachers. My grandmother cleaned houses. I'd put myself through college working 3 jobs. But I'd also done something else. Something I kept very quiet about. Something that changed everything. 8 years ago, when I was 23 and fresh out of college with a business degree and crushing student loan debt, I'd started a side hustle. I was working full-time as an administrative assistant, making $32,000 a year. Living in a tiny studio apartment with a Murphy bed and a kitchen the size of a closet. Eating rice and beans most nights. But I had an idea. I'd noticed something during my job search. Corporate HR departments were desperate for unique, thoughtful gifts for employee appreciation events. But they didn't have time to source handmade, artisan items. And on the other side, I knew talented crafters, artists, and small business owners who made beautiful products but couldn't access corporate clients. So I built a bridge. I started Zenith Collective in my living room, a curated online marketplace connecting corporate buyers with artisan makers. I worked on it every night after my day job. Weekends. Holidays. I taught myself web design from YouTube tutorials. I learned SEO from free online courses. I cold-called HR directors until my voice went hoarse. The first year, I made $8,000 in revenue. Not profit. Revenue. After paying makers and covering platform costs, I netted maybe $2,000. But I kept going. Year 2, revenue hit $45,000. Year 3, $220,000. By year 4, I'd quit my admin job. Zenith Collective was generating $600,000 in annual revenue. I was netting about $170,000 in profit. I hired my first employee. Then my second. Then my third. By year 5, we had 12 employees, $2 million in annual revenue, and we'd caught the attention of larger e-commerce platforms. Gift Corp, a major corporate gifting company, offered to buy Zenith Collective. I negotiated hard. Really hard. Final price, $12 million. I was 28 years old. I paid off my student loans, $32,000. Bought my mother a new car, $28,000. Put $100,000 in a savings account for emergencies. The rest, $11.8 million, I invested. I worked with a financial advisor who specialized in wealth management for entrepreneurs. We built a conservative portfolio, 60% in broad market index funds, 20% in bonds, 20% in carefully selected growth stocks. Over the next 3 years, with market growth and smart rebalancing, that $11.8 million grew to $15.2 million. But I told no one. I kept working. I became an independent consultant, helping small businesses with digital strategy. I made good money, about $90,000 a year. I kept my same modest apartment. I drove my 5-year-old Honda Civic. I shopped at Target and TJ Maxx. Because I'd learned something important. Money changed how people treated you. When I'd first sold Zenith Collective, I'd told a few friends. Suddenly, every conversation became about money. People asked for loans. People assumed I'd always pay for dinners. People looked at me differently. So I stopped talking about it. I created a simple life. A consultant making $90,000 a year. Comfortable but not wealthy. Independent but not intimidating. I wanted to be loved for who I was. Not for what I had. Preston proposed after 18 months. It was romantic, I'll give him that. He took me to the Atlanta Botanical Garden at sunset. String quartet playing. Rose petals everywhere. He got down on one knee by the Orchid Conservatory. The ring was beautiful. 2 carat diamond. Platinum band. I said yes. I loved him. Or I thought I did. Looking back now, I can see the red flags I ignored. The way Preston always deferred to his mother on important decisions. Where we'd vacation. Which restaurants we'd try. Even which movies we'd see. He'd call her his best friend. I thought it was sweet. It wasn't. The way he never stood up for me when Bianca made her little comments. At Christmas dinner, she'd looked at my sweater and said, "Oh, how cute. Is that from Target?" Everyone had laughed. I'd felt my face burn. Preston had just squeezed my hand under the table and changed the subject. He didn't defend me. He never defended me. The way his family made all the wedding decisions without asking me. I wanted my cousin to do my hair and makeup. She was a professional stylist. She'd done my hair my whole life. But Catherine had already hired her people. $300 an hour for hair alone. I wanted a DJ who played R&B and old-school soul. Music my family could dance to. Catherine hired a jazz quartet. "No dancing," she said. "This isn't that kind of event." I wanted to invite my extended family. 35 aunts, uncles, and cousins from North Carolina. Catherine said the venue had limited capacity. "We can only accommodate immediate family," she said. But her guest list included 200 people. Business associates. Country club friends. People I'd never even met. Every time I tried to push back, Preston would say the same thing. "Mom's just trying to help. She's done this before. Trust her." But this wasn't her wedding. It was mine. Or it was supposed to be. The biggest red flag, the one I should have seen, was the money thing. Preston had a job title. Vice President of Operations at Hayes Hospitality. But what did he actually do? I'd gone to his office once. It was beautiful. Corner office. Big desk. View of the city. But his calendar was mostly empty. Lunch meetings. Golf outings. Family dinners. I never saw him actually work. He'd arrive at 10 a.m. Leave by 3 p.m. Take 2-hour lunches. When I asked what projects he was working on, he'd be vague. Oh, restructuring the vendor contracts. Optimizing the supply chain. Strategic planning. Corporate buzzwords that meant nothing. And his salary, I'd seen a pay stub once. $250,000 a year. For what amounted to showing up and having the last name Hayes. But I ignored it. I told myself it was family business. He was being groomed to take over. This was normal for wealthy families. I ignored the red flags because I wanted the fairy tale. I wanted to believe that love could bridge the class divide. That Preston choosing me meant something. That his family would eventually accept me. I was wrong. His mother, Catherine Hayes, was 58. She was elegant, polished, and cold as ice. She looked at me like I was a stain on expensive fabric. His father, Gregory Hayes, 62, barely acknowledged my existence. He grunted hello at family dinners and went back to his phone. Preston's sister, Bianca Miller, was 35. She was married to Owen Miller, a lawyer who worked for the family. Owen was 38, white, and had that slimy corporate attorney energy. Bianca hated me on sight. She made little comments about my clothes, my hair, my background. "Oh, how quaint," she'd say, about my stories of growing up. Must have been so hard. The condescension was palpable. But Preston would squeeze my hand under the table and tell me later not to worry about it. "They'll warm up," he'd say. "They just need time." I believed him. I was marrying him, not his family. The wedding planning was brutal. Catherine took over everything. She picked the venue without asking me. Atlanta Country Club, where her family had been members for 3 generations. She picked the flowers. White roses and calla lilies, because that's what Hayes women carry. She picked the menu. She picked the band. She even tried to pick my dress. I pushed back on the dress. It was the one thing I insisted on. I found a beautiful gown, custom made by a black designer I admired. It cost $8,000. I paid for it myself. Catherine pursed her lips when she saw it but didn't say anything. The wedding was 3 weeks away when I got the summons. Catherine called my phone on a Tuesday afternoon. "Cameron dear," she said in that fake sweet voice, "can you come by the house this afternoon? We need to go over some final details for the rehearsal dinner." I should have known something was wrong. Catherine never invited me anywhere without Preston. But I went. I wanted to be the easygoing daughter-in-law. The one who didn't make waves. The Hayes mansion was in Buckhead, the wealthiest neighborhood in Atlanta. It was a sprawling estate with columns and manicured gardens. Old Southern money on full display. A housekeeper let me in and directed me to Gregory's study. The study was intimidating. Dark mahogany walls. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled with leather-bound books nobody had ever read. A massive desk that looked like it belonged in the Oval Office. The air smelled of furniture polish and old money. Catherine was there. So was Gregory. Bianca and Owen were standing by the fireplace. All 4 of them. An ambush. "Cameron," Catherine said without preamble. "Please sit." I sat in a small chair facing the desk. They remained standing. "Power play," Catherine didn't waste time. She pulled a thick document from a folder and slid it across the desk. It landed with a heavy thud. "What is this?" I asked. Owen stepped forward, his lawyer's smile plastered on. "Cameron," he said in that condescending tone, "it's just a formality. A standard prenuptial agreement." I felt my stomach drop. "A prenup?" I repeated. "Preston and I never discussed a prenup." "Well," Gregory said, speaking for the first time, "the family is discussing it now." I looked at the document. It had to be 40 pages long. "I don't understand," I said. "Why now?" "The wedding is in 3 weeks." Owen picked up the document and tapped it against his palm. "Better late than never," he said. "Look, Cameron, this is simple. You sign this, and we all move forward. You don't, and well, there's no wedding." I stared at him. "What? Sign it, or the wedding's off," Catherine said flatly. Her voice was ice. "Your choice." The room was spinning. "Sign it, or the wedding's off." I thought about my mother flying in tomorrow. My bridesmaids' dresses already fitted. The venue paid for. The flowers ordered. My beautiful dress hanging in my closet. The 200 guests who'd received invitations. This wasn't a request. This was blackmail. "Can I at least read it first?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Owen smiled. That lawyer smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Of course," he said. "Take all the time you need." He paused. "But we do need an answer tonight." I opened the document with shaking hands. The cover page was official looking. Prenuptial agreement between Preston Hayes and Cameron Ellis. Dated 3 days before our wedding. Page 1 was standard boilerplate. Whereas the parties intend to marry. Whereas the parties wish to define their respective rights. Page 2, page 3, more legal language. Then I got to page 8. Section 4, Spousal Support and Property Division. I read it once. Then again. Then a third time, sure I was misunderstanding. In the event of divorce, regardless of the length of the marriage or the circumstances leading to said divorce, Cameron Ellis shall receive a one-time payment of $50,000 as full and complete settlement of any and all claims to marital property, spousal support, or future earnings. $50,000. Total. If we divorced after 1 year, $50,000. If we divorced after 30 years, $50,000. For context, the wedding cake alone cost more than that. But I kept reading. Section 5, Business Interests and Intellectual Property. Any business entity, venture, or intellectual property created, developed, or acquired by Cameron Ellis during the course of the marriage shall be considered community property, with Hayes Family Holdings entitled to 50% ownership and majority control. I read it again. Anything I built during the marriage would be half owned by his family. Not Preston. His family. And they'd have majority control. I could start a company, grow it, pour my heart into it, and Catherine Hayes would own 51%. Section 6, Income and Earnings Management. Any income earned by Cameron Ellis in excess of $75,000 annually shall be considered exceptional earnings subject to family financial review and potential redistribution to maintain household balance. My hands were shaking so hard, I could barely hold the pages. If I made more than $75,000, the excess would be subject to family review. What did that even mean? Would they decide I was making too much? Would they take it? Redistribute it to household balance? Section 7, Inheritance and Gifts. Any inheritance, gift, or financial windfall received by Cameron Ellis during the marriage shall be deposited into a family trust managed by Gregory Hayes, with distributions at the sole discretion of the trustee. If my grandmother died and left me money, Gregory would control it. If I won the lottery, Gregory would decide how much I could access. Section 8, Custody Provisions. In the event of divorce, where minor children are involved, primary physical and legal custody shall default to Preston Hayes unless Cameron Ellis can demonstrate clear and convincing evidence of Preston's unfitness as a parent. Custody would automatically go to Preston. I'd have to prove him unfit. An almost impossible legal standard. But the final section, the one that made my vision go red, was Section 9. Section 9, Infidelity and Moral Conduct. In the event that Preston Hayes engages in extramarital relations, no financial penalty shall be assessed, and such conduct shall not be considered grounds for modification of this agreement. In the event that Cameron Ellis engages in extramarital relations, including but not limited to physical intimacy, emotional affairs, or conduct deemed inappropriate by the Hayes family, Cameron Ellis shall pay liquidated damages of $500,000 to the Hayes family, plus attorney fees and costs. I had to read it 3 times. If Preston cheated, nothing happened. If I cheated, I owed $500,000. Plus attorney fees, which Owen would happily bill at $400 an hour. And the kicker, conduct deemed inappropriate by the Hayes family. That could mean anything. A Molly friend. Working late with a male colleague. Anything Catherine decided was inappropriate. I flipped back through the document, reading random sections. Section 11. Employment and career. Cameron Ellis agrees to seek prior written approval from the Hayes family before accepting employment, changing employment, or engaging in independent business activities that may conflict with family interests or reputation. I'd need their permission to get a job. Section 13. Residency. The marital residence shall be located within Greater Atlanta, in a neighborhood or property approved by the Hayes family. They'd control where I could live. Section 15. Social media and public conduct. Cameron Ellis agrees to maintain social media accounts and public conduct in a manner that reflects positively on the Hayes family name and reputation, subject to family review and guidance. They'd control my Facebook posts. This wasn't a prenup. This was a contract of ownership. I looked up at Owen, Catherine, and Gregory. This is insane, I said quietly. My voice sounded strange. Hollow. Owen Schogel. It's standard protection for a family of means. This isn't standard, I said. This is designed to keep me powerless and broke. Bianca had walked into the room at some point. She was leaning against the bookshelf, watching me. You're marrying up, Cameron, she said. Way up. This is just protecting what's ours. Protecting what's yours? I repeated. I flipped to another section. Found what I was looking for. According to this, Preston doesn't own anything either, I said. He gets a salary from the family business. But no ownership stake. At least not one mentioned here. I looked at Catherine. Does Preston actually own anything? Her eyes flickered. That's not relevant to this discussion, Owen said quickly. It's very relevant, I said. If I'm signing away rights to Preston's property, I should know what property exists. Preston will inherit, Catherine said stiffly. In time. So right now he owns nothing, I said. He's as financially dependent on you as you want me to be. That's different, Gregory said. He's family. And I'm about to be family, I said. Not the same, Bianca said. Not blood. There it was. The truth they'd been dancing around. I wasn't blood. I'd never be blood. I'd always be an outsider. Catherine leaned forward. You're marrying into a prominent family, Cameron. There are expectations. Standards. If you're not comfortable with that, perhaps you're not the right fit. I looked at Bianca. She was smirking. Actually smirking. She'd wanted this. She'd probably pushed for it. Did Preston know about this? I asked. Catherine waved her hand dismissively. Preston will understand once we explain it to him. So he doesn't know, I said. He'll be informed, Gregory said. But this is a family decision. Not his alone. I felt something cold and hard settle in my chest. Let me get this straight, I said slowly. You want me to sign away any claim to anything I might earn, inherit, or build during my marriage. You want me financially dependent and controllable. And if I refuse, you'll cancel the wedding 3 days before it happens. Bianca spoke up. Oh please, Cameron. Don't be dramatic. You should be grateful. You're marrying up. Way up. This is just protecting what's ours. What's yours? I repeated. Preston earns a salary from the family business. What does he actually own? Owen's smile tightened. That's not relevant to this discussion. I flipped through more pages. The more I read, the angrier I got. There was a clause about where I could work. I needed family approval. A clause about where we could live. Only properties approved by the family. A clause about children. Custody would default to Preston in any divorce. This wasn't a marriage. This was indentured servitude. I closed the document carefully. I need to think about this, I said. No, Catherine said sharply. You need to sign it. Tonight. Why tonight? I asked. Because, Owen said, leaning against the desk, we've already had the document notarized. We have witnesses ready. All you need to do is sign. And if I don't? Then we'll have to inform Preston that you're not willing to protect the family's interests, Catherine said. We'll have to tell him you're more interested in his money than in him. That's not true, I said. Isn't it? Bianca asked. You're balking at a simple legal document. What are you hiding, Cameron? Nothing, I said. But this isn't simple. This is controlling and one-sided. That's how prenups work when there's a wealth disparity, Owen said. The family has assets to protect. You don't. I looked at each of them. Catherine, cold and imperious. Gregory, bored and impatient. Bianca, gleeful and cruel. Owen, slimy and smug. They thought they had me. They thought I was trapped, a poor girl with no options. And for a split second, I considered it. I could sign. I could marry Preston. I could hope he'd protect me from his family. But deep down, I knew the truth. A man who let his family ambush his fiancée 3 days before the wedding wasn't going to protect me from anything. I stood up. I need to call someone, I said. Your mother? Bianca asked mockingly. I'm sure she'll have great legal advice. No, I said calmly. My attorney. The room went quiet. Your attorney? Owen repeated. Yes, I said. I have my own attorney. And I'm not signing anything without her review. That's not necessary, Owen said quickly. I'm a lawyer. I can explain anything you don't understand. You're their lawyer, I said. Not mine. Catherine's eyes narrowed. Cameron, don't make this difficult. I pulled out my phone. I'm calling my lawyer now, I said. She'll want to review this. And honestly, she'll probably laugh at half these clauses. You don't have a lawyer, Bianca said. You're bluffing. I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Want to bet? I dialed. The phone rang twice. Then a crisp professional voice answered. Jessica Sterling. Jess, I said. It's Cameron. I need you. Right now. I'm in the middle of dinner, she said. What's wrong? I just got ambushed with a prenup, I said. And I need you to come tear it apart. There was a pause. Send me the address, she said. I'll be there in 30 minutes. I hung up and looked at Catherine. My attorney is on her way, I said. She's one of the best family law attorneys in Georgia. She'll review this document properly. We don't have time for that, Owen said. His voice had an edge now. Then I guess there's no wedding, I said simply. You're being unreasonable, Catherine said. No, I said. I'm being smart. I sat back down and crossed my arms. We'll wait for my attorney. The next 30 minutes were the longest of my life. Nobody spoke. Catherine and Gregory whispered to each other occasionally. Bianca glared at me. Owen kept checking his watch. I just sat there, calm on the outside, screaming on the inside. Because here's what they didn't know. Jessica Sterling wasn't just my attorney. She was also my friend. We'd met 5 years ago when I was selling Zenith Collective. She'd represented me in the negotiations. She knew everything about my finances. And she knew I was worth $15 million. At exactly 29 minutes, the doorbell rang. The housekeeper showed Jessica in. She walked into that study like she owned it. Jessica was 42, black, brilliant, and absolutely terrifying when she needed to be. She wore a sharp gray suit and carried a leather briefcase. Her expression was neutral, professional. Miss Sterling, Owen said, standing. I'm Owen Miller, the family's attorney. I think there's been a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, Jessica said crisply. My client called me about a prenuptial agreement. I'm here to review it. That won't be necessary, Catherine began. Actually, Jessica interrupted, it's completely necessary. A prenup is a binding legal contract. My client has every right to independent legal counsel before signing. She turned to me. Cameron, have you signed anything? No, I said. Good, she said. Let's see what we're dealing with. Owen reluctantly handed her the document. Jessica sat down, pulled out a pair of reading glasses, and began to read. Her expression didn't change as she flipped through pages, but I could see her jaw tightening. After about 10 minutes, she closed the document. She looked at Owen. Then at Catherine and Gregory. This, she said quietly, is one of the most unconscionable prenuptial agreements I have ever seen in 20 years of practice. It's standard, Owen said defensively. It's predatory, Jessica said. It's designed to financially trap and control my client. It's borderline illegal. That's not true, Owen stammered. Really? Jessica asked. Let's go through it, shall we? She opened to a page. This clause here gives the Hayes family control over any inheritance Cameron receives. That's not standard. That's theft. This clause gives you 50% ownership of any business she starts. Also not standard. Also theft. This clause limits her income to $75,000. What happens if she earns more? Does the family just take it? Owen was sweating now. And this, Jessica said, her voice dropping to something dangerous. This infidelity clause. Preston gets a free pass to cheat. Cameron gets financially destroyed if she so much as looks at another man wrong. That's just protecting the family, Bianca said. Nah, Jessica said. That's ensuring your brother can do whatever he wants while your soon-to-be sister-in-law has no recourse. Catherine stood up. This is insulting, she said. We brought Cameron here in good faith. You brought her here 3 days before her wedding, Jessica said. You ambushed her without legal representation. You threatened to cancel her wedding if she didn't sign immediately. That's not good faith. That's coercion. It's not coercion, Owen said. It's a standard prenuptial agreement for a family of means protecting assets. What assets? Jessica asked. Be specific. Owen blinked. I'm sorry? What specific assets are the Hayes family protecting with this prenup? Jessica repeated. Give me numbers. That's confidential, Gregory said. Is it though? Jessica asked. Because I have some numbers. She pulled out her phone. Hayes Hospitality Group, she read. 12 locations. Estimated annual revenue, $40 million. But estimated debt, $48 million. The room went dead silent. Your flagship restaurant hasn't turned a profit in 18 months, Jessica continued. You're 3 months behind on vendor payments. You have outstanding liens from contractors. Your personal residence, this house, has a second mortgage you took out last year. How do you know that? Catherine asked, her face white. It's public record, Jessica said. Anyone with access to business filings can see it. So, let me get this straight, Jessica said. You want my client to sign a prenup protecting assets that don't actually exist. You want to control her earnings because yours are declining. And you want her locked into this family because you need the appearance of stability. That's not, Owen started. That's exactly it, Jessica said. You're broke. You're desperate. And you're trying to trap Cameron into being your cash cow while taking whatever she earns. No one spoke. Cameron, Jessica said, turning to me. Do not sign this. I'm not going to, I said quietly. Catherine's face was purple with rage. This is outrageous, she hissed. How dare you come into our home and insult us? I didn't insult you, Jessica said calmly. I told you the truth. Gregory stood up. I think it's time for you to leave, he said. We're both leaving, Jessica said. Cameron, let's go. I stood up. Wait, Owen said desperately. Let's not be hasty. We can negotiate the terms. There's nothing to negotiate, I said. I'm not signing that prenup. Then the wedding is off, Catherine said coldly. Fine, I said. And I walked out. Jessica and I got into her car. We drove 2 blocks before I started shaking. You okay? Jessica asked. I just called off my wedding, I said. 3 days before it was supposed to happen. You dodged a bullet, Jessica said. Cameron, that family is bankrupt. Morally and financially. What do I do now? I asked. Now, Jessica said, you protect yourself. Over the next 72 hours, Jessica and I went to war. And I learned something important. When you have $15 million, you have options. That night, after leaving the Hayes mansion, Jessica and I went back to her office. It was 9 p.m. Her assistant had gone home. We ordered Chinese food and spread out in her conference room. Okay, Jessica said, let's talk strategy. She pulled out a yellow legal pad. First, she said, we file a bar complaint against Owen. For what? I asked. For drafting an unconscionable prenup, Jessica said. For attempting to coerce you into signing without independent counsel. For violating his ethical obligations. Will that work? I asked. It'll put him on the defensive, Jessica said. The Georgia bar takes these complaints seriously. Even if they don't disbar him, they'll investigate. And that investigation becomes public record. She wrote something on the pad. Second, she said, we need leverage. What kind of leverage? Financial leverage, Jessica said. The kind that hurts. She looked at me. Cameron, you told me you did consulting work for some Hayes hospitality vendors. I did, I said. Last year. I helped a catering company upgrade their invoicing system. Do you remember their name? Savory Solutions, I said. Small company. They did corporate events. Jessica pulled out her laptop. Started typing. Let me guess, she said. Hayes Hospitality owes them money. He blinked. How did you know? Because Hayes owes everyone money, Jessica said. She turned the laptop to show me. She'd pulled up business records, court filings, lien searches. Hayes Hospitality has unpaid vendor bills going back 18 months, she said. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. I stared at the screen. There were dozens of companies listed. Catering services. Linen companies. Liquor distributors. Maintenance contractors. Cleaning services. Some of the amounts were small. 5,000. 8,000. Others were substantial. 40,000. 75,000. Has any of them sued? I asked. A few tried, Jessica said. But Hayes has good lawyers who know how to delay. Most vendors eventually give up. It costs too much to fight. She closed the laptop. But what if someone bought those debts? Bought them? I repeated. Yes, Jessica said. You pay the vendor a discounted amount. Say, 50 cents on the dollar. In exchange, they assign the debt to you. Now you own the claim against Hayes. I thought about it. Why would vendors do that? Because they've been trying to collect for months, Jessica said. They need the cash flow. Getting 50,000 today is better than maybe getting 100,000 in 2 years after a lawsuit. And then what? I asked. Then you file liens, Jessica said. All at once. Dozens of liens. You become Hayes Hospitality's biggest creditor. And that gives us leverage. I felt my heart start to race. How much would we need to buy? Jessica pulled up a spreadsheet she'd been building. I've identified approximately $3.2 million in outstanding vendor debt, she said. If we offer 50 to 75 cents on the dollar, we could probably buy about 2.5 million worth of debt for around 1.5 million. I have that, I said quietly. I know you do, Jessica said. The question is, are you willing to spend it? I thought about Catherine's face when she'd slid that prenup across the desk. I thought about Owen's smug smile. I thought about Bianca's cruel smirk. Yes, I said. Let's do it. Over the next 3 days, Jessica and I worked around the clock. She made calls to vendors. Explained the situation. Offered cash settlements. Most jumped at it. Savory Solutions was first. They were owed $63,000. I offered $45,000 cash, paid immediately. The owner, a tired-looking woman named Maria, almost cried. You're sure? She asked. You'll pay today? Today, I said. She signed the assignment papers right there. Next was a linen service. They were owed $48,000. I offered $35,000. Then a liquor distributor. $72,000 owed. I offered $55,000. Then another. And another. By day 2, we'd contacted 23 vendors. 18 agreed to sell. By day 3, I'd spent $1.9 million. And I owned $2.6 million in Hayes hospitality debt. Jessica filed all the liens at once. Friday afternoon. 3 p.m. She timed it perfectly. The Georgia business filing system updates in real time. Anyone can search it. And she knew Catherine and Gregory's lawyers checked it religiously. At 3:15 p.m., Jessica's phone rang. It was Owen. His voice was shaking. What have you done? He asked. Jessica put it on speaker so I could hear. I've filed liens on behalf of my client, Jessica said calmly. All properly documented. All legally valid. You can't do this, Owen said. I already did, Jessica said. Cameron Ellis is now the primary secured creditor for Hayes Hospitality Group. She's owed $2.6 million. We don't have that, Owen said. His voice was panicked now. You know we don't have that. Then you have a problem, Jessica said. This is extortion, Owen said. Nah, Jessica said. This is debt collection. Your clients borrowed money from vendors. They didn't pay. Those vendors sold the debt to my client. Now your clients owe my client. That's how it works. There was silence on the line. We need to meet, Owen said finally. Yes, Jessica said. You do. We'll come to you, Owen said. Nah, Jessica said. You'll come to my office. Monday morning. 10 a.m. Owen, she added. Bring your clients. All of them. She hung up. Then she looked at me and smiled. Now, she said, we wait. That weekend was surreal. Saturday was supposed to be my wedding day. Instead, I spent it with my mother and my best friend at a spa. My mother kept asking if I was okay. I'm fine, Mom, I said. You just called off your wedding, she said. You're allowed to not be fine. But I was fine. Better than fine. I felt free. Sunday, Jessica called. Owen's been busy, she said. Doing what? Trying to find a way out, Jessica said. He's been calling other law firms, bankruptcy attorneys, debt restructuring specialists. How do you know? I have friends. Jessica said. Word gets around. Monday morning, I dressed carefully. Navy blue suit. White silk blouse. My most expensive heels. I looked like money. Because I had money. Jessica's office was in a high-rise downtown. Glass and steel. Expensive art in the lobby. We met in the large conference room, the one with the view. At exactly 10 a.m., the Hayes family arrived. Catherine walked in first. She'd aged since I'd seen her last. Circles under her eyes. Hair not quite perfect. Gregory followed. He looked beaten down. Shoulders slumped. Bianca came next. Her usual smugness was gone. She looked scared. Owen brought up the rear, carrying a briefcase, looking like a man walking to his own execution. Jessica and I were already seated. We didn't stand up. Thank you for coming, Jessica said. She slid folders across the table. One for each of them. What is this? Catherine asked. Open it, Jessica said. Catherine opened hers with shaking hands. It was the lien documentation. Professionally bound. Tabbed sections. Highlighted totals. Hayes Hospitality Group owes Cameron Ellis $2.6 million in outstanding vendor debt, Jessica said. She is now the primary secured creditor. This can't be legal, Bianca said. It's completely legal, Jessica said. Every debt was properly assigned. Every lien was properly filed. Owen was frantically flipping through pages. His face went from red to white to green. You bought our debts, he said. Cameron bought debts owed by Hayes Hospitality, Jessica corrected. Debts you hadn't paid for months. Gregory finally spoke. How much do we owe individual vendors now? Nothing, Jessica said. You owe Cameron $2.6 million. We don't have that, Gregory said quietly. I know, Jessica said. Then what do you want? Catherine asked. Her voice was small, defeated. I want payment, I said. It was the first time I'd spoken. They all turned to look at me. I met Catherine's eyes. Your family tried to trap me in a contract that would have made me your financial prisoner, I said. You threatened my wedding. You humiliated me. I paused. Now you're going to pay. Literally, Jessica added. We can't pay $2.6 million, Owen said. The company doesn't have it. Then you'll file for bankruptcy, Jessica said. And Cameron, as the primary secured creditor, will liquidate your assets to recover her money. Please, Catherine said. The word looked painful. There must be another way. There is, Jessica said. She slid another document across the table. Cameron is willing to accept a structured settlement, Jessica said. Instead of cash, you'll transfer ownership of 3 Hayes Hospitality properties to her. What properties? Gregory asked. The 3 that are still profitable, Jessica said. Jubilee Restaurant. The Savannah Event Space. The Augusta Hotel. You can't take our businesses, Bianca said. I'm not taking them, I said. I'm accepting them, as payment for debt you owe me. This is theft, Catherine hissed. No, Jessica said. This is business. She tapped the document. You have until Friday to decide, Jessica said. Sign this transfer agreement, or Cameron files for bankruptcy liquidation on Monday. The room was silent. If we sign, Owen asked. What happens to the rest of the company? You keep it, Jessica said. What's left of it? And the debt is forgiven? The debt is satisfied, Jessica said. Catherine was staring at the document like it was a snake. You're destroying us, she said. No, I said. I'm collecting what you owe me. You had a choice, Jessica added. You could have paid your vendors on time. You could have run your business responsibly. You could have treated Cameron with respect. You made different choices. Gregory put his head in his hands. How did it come to this? He asked. You tried to trap the wrong woman, I said. The meeting ended 20 minutes later. They left without agreeing to anything, but Owen took the transfer documents. Jessica and I watched them go. Think they'll sign? I asked. They don't have a choice, Jessica said. She was right. Thursday evening, Owen called. They'd signed. Friday afternoon, the property transfers were executed. I now owned 3 restaurants, an event space, and a boutique hotel. Total value, approximately $3.2 million. More than enough to cover the $2.6 million in debt. And suddenly, I was in the hospitality business. That Saturday, the day after the transfer, was supposed to have been my wedding reception. The venue was already paid for. The flowers were ordered. The cake was made. The food was prepped. I called them all. The wedding is off, I said, but the party isn't. I invited everyone I actually cared about. My mother and her sisters. My college friends. My business colleagues. Former employees from Zenith Collective. 200 people showed up to what I called the Freedom Party. Instead of white and gold, we had rainbow colors. Instead of classical music, we had R&B and soul. Instead of champagne toasts to the bride and groom, we had champagne toasts to new beginnings. My mother gave a speech that made everyone cry. She talked about watching me build Zenith Collective. About putting myself through college. About never giving up. My daughter, she said, is the strongest person I know. And today, we celebrate her freedom. The party went until 2 a.m. It was perfect. Better than any wedding could have been. The Hayes family, meanwhile, was imploding. Without the 3 profitable properties, Hayes Hospitality couldn't survive. The remaining locations were money pits. Within 2 weeks, they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The Atlanta Business Chronicle ran a front-page story. Hayes Hospitality falls. Once. Prominent restaurant group files for bankruptcy. The article detailed their financial mismanagement. The unpaid vendors. The mounting debts. It mentioned that their former future daughter-in-law now owned their most profitable properties. The Hayes name became toxic. Owen Miller faced a bar investigation for the prenup scheme. During the investigation, they discovered he'd been billing Hayes Hospitality for personal expenses. Vacations charged as business travel. Personal shopping charged as office supplies. He was disbarred within 6 months. Bianca, discovering her husband was now penniless and unemployable, filed for divorce. The divorce was nasty. Public. Humiliating. Preston called me. Multiple times. I never answered. Finally, he sent a letter. A real letter. Handwritten. Cameron, it started. I'm so sorry. He claimed he hadn't known about the prenup. That his family had planned it without him. That he would have stopped it if he'd known. Maybe that was true. But he'd let his family control every other aspect of our relationship. He'd let them pick our venue, our menu, our music. He'd never stood up for me once. So why would he have stood up for me about a prenup? I threw the letter away. 6 months after the wedding that never was, I stood in my new office. She invited Catherine, Gregory, Bianca, and Owen. She told them it was to discuss a settlement to call off the wedding quietly. They came thinking they had the upper hand. The meeting was in Jessica's conference room downtown. Catherine walked in like she owned the place. Gregory looked bored. Bianca looked smug. Owen looked nervous. Jessica sat at the head of the table. I sat next to her. "Thank you for coming," Jessica said. "I wanted to discuss the dissolution of Cameron and Preston's engagement." "We have nothing to discuss," Catherine said. Cameron made her choice. "Actually," Jessica said, "we have quite a bit to discuss." She slid a folder across the table. "What is this?" Owen asked. "Open it," Jessica said. Owen opened the folder. His face went white. "What?" Catherine demanded. Owen showed hair. It was the lien documentation. Hayes Hospitality owes Cameron Ellis $2.4 million in outstanding vendor debt, Jessica said. She is now the primary secured creditor. "That's impossible," Gregory said. "It's very possible," Jessica said. "It's also legally binding." Owen was frantically flipping through pages. "You can't do this," he said. "We already did," Jessica said. "Now, here's what's going to happen," Jessica continued. Hayes Hospitality will pay Cameron Ellis the full $2.4 million within 30 days. "Or what?" Catherine asked. "Or Cameron will force the company into bankruptcy proceedings," Jessica said. "She'll liquidate your assets to recover her money." "You're bluffing," Bianca said. "Try me," I said quietly. It was the first time I'd spoken. They all turned to look at me. I met Catherine's eyes. "You tried to trap me in a contract that would have made me your financial prisoner," I said. "You threatened to humiliate me 3 days before my wedding. You thought I was helpless." I paused. "You were wrong." Gregory's voice was shaking. "Where did you get $2 million? "That's none of your business," Jessica said. "What is your business is paying back your debt." "We don't have it," Owen said quietly. "We don't have $2 million. "Then you're bankrupt," Jessica said simply. The room was silent. "Please," Catherine said. The word looked painful coming out of her mouth. "Please, there must be some way to work this out." "There is," Jessica said. She slid another document across. "Cameron is willing to accept a structured settlement," Jessica said. "You'll transfer ownership of 3 Hayes Hospitality properties to her. Specifically, the 3 that are still profitable." "You can't take our businesses," Gregory said. "I'm not taking them," I said. "I'm accepting them as payment for debt you owe me." "This is theft," Bianca hissed. "No," Jessica said. "This is business." The document sat on the table. "You have 24 hours to decide," Jessica said. "Accept the settlement, or Cameron files for bankruptcy liquidation." They left without another word. 23 hours later, Owen called Jessica. They accepted. The wedding that was supposed to happen never did. Instead, on that Saturday, I threw a different kind of party. I'd already paid for the venue, the food, the flowers. All non-refundable. So I called my mother, my real friends, my former colleagues. I told them to come to Atlanta. Not for a wedding. For a celebration. That Saturday, 200 people showed up to what became known as the Freedom Party. Instead of vows, I gave a speech about knowing your worth. Instead of cutting a cake with a groom, I cut a cake that said new beginnings. Instead of a first dance my mother and I danced to I'm Every Woman. It was perfect. Better than any wedding could have been. The Hayes family, meanwhile, was imploding. Without the 3 profitable properties, Hayes Hospitality couldn't survive. The remaining locations were money pits. Within 2 weeks, they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The Atlanta Business Chronicle ran a front-page story. Hayes Hospitality falls. Once. Prominent restaurant group files for bankruptcy. The article detailed their financial mismanagement. The unpaid vendors. The mounting debts. It mentioned that their former future daughter-in-law now owned their most profitable properties. The Hayes name became toxic. Owen Miller faced a bar investigation for the Prenup scheme. During the investigation, they discovered he'd been billing Hayes Hospitality for personal expenses. Vacations charged as business travel. Personal shopping charged as office supplies. He was disbarred within 6 months. Bianca, discovering her husband was now penniless and unemployable, filed for divorce. The divorce was nasty. Public. Humiliating. Preston called me. Multiple times. I never answered. Finally, he sent a letter. A real letter. Handwritten. "Cameron," it started. "I'm so sorry." He claimed he hadn't known about the prenup. That his family had planned it without him. That he would have stopped it if he'd known. Maybe that was true. But he'd let his family control every other aspect of our relationship. He'd let them pick our venue, our menu, our music. He'd never stood up for me once. So why would he have stood up for me about a prenup? I threw the letter away. 6 months after the wedding that never was, I stood in my new office. Corner suite on the 23rd floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Atlanta. The office had my name on the door. Cameron Ellis, founder and CEO, Meridian Ventures. Meridian Ventures was my new investment fund, focused on funding businesses founded by women of color. I'd used the profits from the Hayes Hospitality properties to seed it. Jubilee Restaurant, the Savannah Event Space, and the Augusta Hotel were all thriving under new management. I'd promoted the existing staff, paid the vendors what they were owed, invested in upgrades and marketing. Within 4 months, all 3 properties were profitable again. Because it turned out, when you actually pay your bills and treat your employees well, businesses tend to succeed. I'd sold my stake in the properties after getting them stable. Made a profit of $800,000. That money, plus my existing capital, gave me the resources to launch Meridian. We focused on early-stage companies. Women who'd been told no by traditional venture capital. Women who'd been underestimated. Women who reminded me of myself. Our first investment was in a Black woman who'd developed a sustainable packaging solution. The second was in a Latina entrepreneur who'd created an app connecting home healthcare workers with patients. The third was in an Asian American woman revolutionizing supply chain logistics for small businesses. We were deliberate. We were strategic. And we were changing the game. The Atlanta business community took notice. Articles were written about the former bride who'd turned debt collection into a portfolio. Forbes did a feature. Headline, From Prenup to Power, How Cameron Ellis Built an Empire. The story went viral. And somewhere in there, I started dating again. His name was Marcus. He was an architect. Brilliant, kind, funny. We met at a charity gala. But Marcus was different. He knew my whole story. I'd told him everything on our 3rd date. And instead of being intimidated, he'd smiled. That's incredible, he'd said. You're incredible. He called my resilience my superpower. He introduced me to his family without hesitation. His mother adored me. With Marcus, everything was easy. Natural. Real. No games. No manipulation. No family drama. Just partnership. As for the Hayes family, their fall was complete. Gregory and Catherine lost the Buckhead mansion to foreclosure. They moved into a modest condo in the suburbs. Their country club memberships were canceled. Their social circle evaporated. They'd gone from Atlanta royalty to Atlanta cautionary tale. My phone buzzed on my desk one afternoon. It was a text from Marcus, confirming our dinner plans. I smiled. A real, easy smile. I texted back, then turned to my presentation. I was happy. I was whole. I was free. They wanted me to sign a document proving I was worthless. In the end, they were the ones signing bankruptcy papers. Because they forgot one thing. My true value was never up for negotiation. This story teaches that your self-worth is independent of how others perceive you. People who underestimate you reveal their own limitations, not yours. True power comes from silently building your own success and having the courage to protect it. When someone, even a partner, proves they value their comfort over your dignity, believe them. The greatest victory isn't just exposing their deceit. That's incredible, he'd said. You're incredible. He called my resilience my superpower. He introduced me to his family without hesitation. His mother adored me. With Marcus, everything was easy. Natural. Real. No games. No manipulation. No family drama. Just partnership. As for the Hayes family, their fall was complete. Gregory and Catherine lost the Buckhead mansion to foreclosure. They moved into a modest condo in the suburbs. Their country club memberships were canceled.